What's up, guys? It's your boy Zawoki back out with another Chris Watts video, and this one came across my pretty much like For You page, my like a suggestion, and this was by Secret in the Dark, which I am subscribed to. Love the channel. Definitely, you guys need to go over there, subscribe, comment, like, and share. Link is in the description. But Chris Watts still haunts me in my sleep. I can't, or I couldn't sleep for weeks. I feel like I'm on this train of what Secret in the Dark is dealing with. I want to watch this, and then afterward we'll discuss, but I feel like I'm on, like, this case is literally, I wouldn't say consuming me, but it is haunting me, it is following me, it is stalking me, and I'm definitely scared I'm never going to be able to leave. So, before we go any further, guys, make sure you guys are subscribed to my YouTube channel by hitting that white bar icon down at the bottom right. Hit that bell icon next to it. So when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that's Wookie myself has posted that video. Then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And I need to fix... There we go. This one's longer than the other. I'm going to have to fix that. But again, I thank you guys all for being here. We just hit 69,000 subscribers. It's all because of you guys. So keep on doing what you guys are doing. And with that being said, I'd like to get into this video. So let's take a look.
Your Honor, there are no words to adequately describe the unimaginable tragedy that brings us before this court today.
I'm getting more and more disgusted with this man every single time I look into this case.
By my comments, I'm not even going to try to express the horror, the pain, or the suffering that the defendant has caused to these families, to this community, and to all who are a part of this investigation. However, I do want to spend a few minutes sharing with the court the details of the crime, as so far you've only had an opportunity to review the affidavit and a few facts here and there that have been offered to the court in the motions and pleadings that have been filed. The questions that have screamed out to anyone who will listen since August 13th of 2018 are why and how. Why did this have to happen? How could a seemingly normal husband and father annihilate his entire family? For what? These are the questions that only one individual in this courtroom or on this planet knows the answers to. I fully expect we will not receive the answers to these questions today, nor will we at any point in the future.
But why? He's acting like this is going to be quiet forever. But why?
I don't expect that he will ever tell the truth about what truly happened or why. Even if he did, there is no rational way that any human being could find those answers acceptable responses to such horrific questions. The best we can do is try to piece together some kind of understanding from the evidence that is available to us.
The judge also...
I've seen evil.
Hold on.
Available to us.
The judge has chosen to remain anonymous. Her voice, however, speaks for the thousands that's still searching for the answers. Ooh.
I've seen evil. I've seen hatred in a man's eyes. I've seen what happens when greed overtakes conscience, when jealousy burns so hot it turns to blood, when rage erupts and leaves nothing but bodies and silence. But what I saw in the case of Christopher Watts wasn't like any of those. It wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't self-defense. And it wasn't madness.
It was eradication. That's what he wanted. He wanted to completely hit the delete button, reset, eradicate his old life, and start anew.
No. What I saw in that courtroom was something far more disturbing.
And dark.
It was the absence of everything we count on to keep each other safe. It was a hollow space where decency used to live, and it was smiling. I've been a judge for over 3 decades. I've presided over cases involving serial killers, gang murders, child abuse that would break your heart if I described it aloud. I've looked into the eyes of people who've taken lives, some who regretted it, and others who didn't. I thought I had grown numb, not callous, but steady. Then came the Watts case. And for the first time in my career, I couldn't make sense of what I was reading. Not legally, not emotionally, not morally. And that's saying something. This wasn't just a murder. This was a man who erased his entire family. Not because he had to, not because someone was threatening him, not because he snapped in a moment of
Because of another woman.
uncontrollable rage, but because they were in the way. Because he wanted a different life. Because they didn't fit the story he was rewriting in secret. As a judge, you learn to separate the act from the actor. You understand that good people do bad things. You understand that trauma has roots, that sometimes
This is a whole nother ballpark of good people doing bad things. It's not like you went to a convenience store and took a Trident gum pack and then forgot to pay for it.
the past leaves people broken. And in many cases, not all, but many, there's a trail you can follow. A reason, however warped, a crack that widened over time, a trigger. But with Chris Watts, there was none of that. No sign of a man unhinged, no violence in his past, no history of abuse, no trail of threats or dangerous behaviors. He blended in so well that even when he confessed, people still blinked in disbelief. He had what many would envy: a good job, a home in a quiet neighborhood, a wife who adored him, two bright-eyed daughters who looked at him like he hung the moon,
A son
and
on the
another
way.
child on the way. So how? Why?
He could have played football with him, watched football, done car things, and so forth and so on. And that's what he decided because, Nichol said she would give me my firstborn son. He was already on the way.
That's the question the public kept asking, but what they didn't understand is we ask it too. Judges, prosecutors, investigators, we stare at the same puzzle pieces you do. We want the same answers. And sometimes there are none. Chris Watts didn't just kill his family. He planned their erasure. He rewrote the story of who they were and who he was. And then, with the calm of a man taking out the trash, he hid them, lied about them, and smiled for the cameras. I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine holding your child's hand as she looks up at you, asking if everything's okay. Imagine being the one she trusts the most. Now, imagine choosing that
And then he took it away.
moment to betray her in the worst way a parent can. That's what this man did.
That's why it hurts
And
me.
he didn't do it once. He did it again and again. With each decision, he chose death over truth. He chose lies over consequences. He chose freedom over fatherhood. That's what still keeps me up at night. This case wasn't horrifying because of how loud the violence was. It was horrifying because of how quiet it was. There was no forced entry, no struggle, no screams that neighbors reported. Just a family that slowly went silent, and a man who went to work like nothing had happened. Over the years, I've had people ask me if
And yet he wants salvation. He wants forgiveness. Again, that's between him and the Lord. But for us here, how is there forgiveness? For him to take away 4 beautiful gifts that the Lord had made, created in his image, and for Chris to take it away, that's why I just don't understand why some of us think that the 10 Commandments are equal. I mean, we're led to and told that they are equal, so lying is the same as killing. Honoring or dishonoring your mom and father is the same thing as lying. And killing, it's like, but killing is so like grotesque and evil. I don't know. Am I wrong?
believe in evil. Usually I'd say no. I believe in brokenness, in trauma, in consequence. But after this case, I'm not so sure anymore. They say a lie has speed, but truth has endurance.
Ooh, that's good.
Chris Watts ran fast for a few days. He played the role of grieving husband. He stood on the front porch of his home, eyes cast downward, voice trembling. I just want them back. Those of us who have spent years studying human behavior know something. The most convincing lie is the one told with calm. Not tears, not shouting, calm. And that's what made it so chilling. He was calm, not broken, not nervous, not falling apart like a man desperate for the return of his family. No, he was answering texts from friends, taking calls from reporters, fielding questions from law enforcement with the steadiness of a man discussing a flat tire.
And a mistress in the background listening onto conversations, trying to make notes and figure out what to say and what not to say.
I've watched defendants lie before. Some do it out of panic, some do it with arrogance. But Chris Watts did it with peace. And let's talk about the collateral damage. Because when a man like this commits a crime like this, the wreckage spreads. To Shanann's parents, who had to hear the gruesome details of what was done to their daughter and granddaughters. To the first responders, who had to recover the children's bodies from oil tanks. To the law enforcement officers who worked overtime, chasing shadows of a man they didn't realize was the one holding the knife all along. To a community that watched a neighbor turn into a killer overnight. I've seen towns recover from floods and wildfires faster than they've recovered from crimes like this, because there is no shelter from betrayal this personal. In my years on the bench, I've learned that people can endure a lot, but it's betrayal that breaks them. And Chris didn't just betray his family. He betrayed the human instinct to protect the ones we love. He flipped it on its head. He became what they feared, while they were still calling him dad. I'll say this too, because it needs to be said. There are people who still wonder if he snapped, if maybe something took over, if maybe, just maybe, there's a deeper explanation. Let me put that to rest. The only thing that took over was his selfishness, his complete, cold, calculated desire to rid himself of inconvenience. That's not insanity. That's intention. In all the cases I've judged, one question always remains. Can this person be redeemed? And while I believe in redemption, I also believe in truth. And truth in this case is buried in oil, hidden under lies, and delivered with a smile. I've signed death warrants. I've sent people away for life. I've watched families break, and I've watched them begin again. But in all my years, I've never seen justice feel so small in the face of something this large.
And this is from a judge.
Chris Watts received 5 life sentences, 3 for his family, 1 for his unborn son, and another for good measure. He will die in prison, and some say, good, that's justice. But I've been around long enough to tell you, justice isn't always satisfying, because justice can't bring back what was lost. It can't hug Shanann's parents at night. It can't comfort Bella or Celeste in their final moments. It can't undo the ache of knowing that a father, their father, chose to erase them rather than simply leave. And no sentence, however long, however absolute, can make sense of that choice. And let's talk about the collateral damage. Because when a man like this commits a crime like this, the wreckage spreads. To Shanann's parents, who had to hear the gruesome details of what was done to their daughter and granddaughters. To the first responders, who had to recover the children's bodies from oil tanks.
They retired.
To the law enforcement officers who worked overtime, chasing shadows of a man they didn't realize was the one holding the knife all along. To a community that watched a neighbor turn into a killer overnight. I've seen towns recover from floods and wildfires faster than they've recovered from crimes like this, because there is no shelter from betrayal this personal. In my years on the bench, I've learned that people can endure a lot, but it's betrayal that breaks them. And Chris didn't just betray his family. He betrayed the human instinct to protect the ones we love. He flipped it on its head. He became what they feared, while they were still calling him dad. I'll say this too, because it needs to be said. There are people who still wonder if he snapped, if maybe something took over, if maybe, just maybe, there's a deeper explanation. Let me put that to rest. The only thing that took over was his selfishness,
That's a
his complete, cold, calculated desire to rid himself of inconvenience. That's not insanity. That's
I've heard that twice.
intention. In all the cases I've judged, one question always remains. Can this person be redeemed? And while I believe in redemption,
No.
I also believe in truth. And truth in this case is buried in oil, hidden under lies, and delivered with a smile. I've signed death warrants. I've sent people away for life. I've watched families break, and I've watched them begin again. But in all my years, I've never seen justice feel so small in the face of something this large. Chris Watts received 5 life sentences, 3 for his family, 1 for his unborn son, and another for good measure. He will die in prison, and some say, good, that's justice. But I've been around long enough to tell you, justice isn't always.
Sorry, it's my sister-in-law's dog. Every little shadow.
Always satisfying, because justice can't bring back what was lost. It can't hug Shanann's parents at night. It can't comfort Bella or Celeste in their final moments. It can't undo the ache of knowing that a father, their father, chose to erase them rather than simply
love
leave.
them.
And no sentence, however long, however absolute, can make sense.
Molly! Molly! Come here! Molly! Come here! Oh, yeah. Oh, I show you puppy. I show you puppy. See? This is the puppy that wants to sit there and bark all the time. What's wrong? Huh? Is there something wrong? No? Okay. Mwah. Thank you. She's a cutie, but she barks at everything.
Of that choice. When I was young in this profession, I used to believe in clean endings.
Yes.
Guilty, not guilty. Life, death, closure.
Amen.
But the longer I served, the more I realized that some wounds don't close. They scab over. They scar, but they don't heal. The Watts case was one of those. It wasn't just a family destroyed. It was trust destroyed. Faith in what a parent is supposed to be.
Good words.
Faith in the idea that you can know the person sleeping next to you. Do you know what breaks the human heart?
Love.
It's not chaos. It's calculation. Chris didn't lose control. He executed control. Every step was deliberate. Every lie rehearsed. Every action planned. And while others prayed, searched, and cried, he moved forward like a man rearranging furniture. Cold, clean, certain. We often speak about monsters in this profession, and too often we look for fangs, red flags, raised voices. We expect them to announce themselves. But Chris Watts reminded us that real danger often wears khakis, sits quietly at the dinner table, says, "I love you," on the way out the door. Sometimes the ones who destroy us
And then Googles it.
are the ones we never suspected. Let me speak plainly, because this case demands plain words. If a man can calmly kill his pregnant wife, if a man can look his daughter in the eye while ending her life, if a man can do all that and still drive to work, smile for the media, and lie to everyone who ever loved them, then we have to ask ourselves, what else are we blind to? There are those who say he was possessed by lust, that his mistress clouded his judgment, that he saw
Or
a future
persuaded.
so tempting he couldn't resist. That's not a reason. That's an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
He could have walked away. He could have left. He
Yep.
could have started over
He could have fought for his wife and children that he so wanted.
without ending everything. But he didn't. Because in his mind, the people he once called family weren't people anymore. They were obstacles. And once you dehumanize someone, There's nothing left to protect. I'll never forget reading that autopsy report. Bella had fought. She bit her tongue. She gasped. She bled. She was 4. How do you ever come back from that? As a father, as a human being, as a world watching? You don't. And yet, in the ashes of it all, Shanann's family showed more grace than I ever could. They opposed the death penalty, not because they thought Chris deserved mercy, but because they didn't want to keep living this nightmare in court.
Well, they also said, Miss Rusick said that she wanted to not take Chris's life because that decision is between the Lord, is what was said.
Courtrooms for the next 30 years. They chose peace, even when peace had been taken from them in the cruelest way imaginable. That's a level of forgiveness I don't claim to understand, but I deeply respect it. So what is justice, really? Is it years served? Names remembered? Tears shed in silence? Maybe.
Time.
But maybe justice in a case like this is simply the telling of the truth, over and over.
That's why I feel that Nichol Kessinger needs time to think about what she did. I don't think she's thought, oh, I should have done differently. I guarantee she's still probably doing the exact same stuff. I don't think she's married. She's probably with a boyfriend and so forth, has no kids, has dogs, and so forth. So there's people that think that we're going to see her again one day. We'll see something else she's done because she did something back when she was more of a teenager, in her late teens, early 20s, got caught, stabbed a guy in the back, and so forth. And yeah, it's definitely a little scary to think about with this man, and coming from a judge. So it's coming from a professional. I thank you guys for being here. Don't forget to put your thoughts and your opinions down below. And then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys in the next video. Please take care, be safe, and as always, keep nerding on, and we will see you guys in the next video.